She hid as a beta for 5 years to escape the mark, until the Alpha King did the unthinkable. Elena Voss had a system, and the system kept her safe. Every morning at 5:30, before the sun touched the edges of her curtain, she sat at her bathroom mirror and pressed a fresh suppressant patch behind her left ear. She smoothed it flat with 2 fingers, the way she had done every single day for 5 years. Then she pulled her sleeve down over her wrist, poured herself a cup of coffee, and became, to the rest of the world, perfectly ordinary. She had been ordinary for so long that sometimes she almost believed it herself. The world she lived in sorted people early. By the age of 17, a person's mark appeared on their inner wrist, a symbol that told everyone what you were, alpha, beta, or omega. Alphas led companies, held seats on district councils, and made the rules. Betas filled in the middle, working steady jobs, living steady lives. Omegas were expected to follow, to serve, to be assigned, to be claimed. The law used softer language, but the result was the same. Elena had learned this the night her father looked at the mark on her wrist, called it a disappointment, and told her to leave before morning. She was 17 years old. She had $42 and a backpack. By the time she found the outer district, she had already made her decision. A woman named Rosie, who ran a small pharmacy out of a converted storage unit, sold her the first patch without asking questions. Elena used the last of her money and did not look back. Now she was 22, then 25, and now 27, working as an accountant at Mercer Financial Group, a firm small enough to stay quiet and large enough to offer decent pay. She had an apartment with a narrow balcony, a gray cat named Fig, and one friend, a woman named Mara, who worked in the filing department and brought Elena tea without being asked. "You look tired again," Mara said one Tuesday morning, setting a paper cup on Elena's desk. "I'm always tired," Elena said, which was true. The patches, taken long past the recommended period, were beginning to pull something out of her, a steadiness she couldn't quite name. She had fainted once in the stairwell 3 months ago and told no one. A clinic visit would require a full scan. A full scan would show everything. She opened her spreadsheet and let numbers fill her mind. Numbers were safe. Numbers did not have opinions about what she was. The news came that same afternoon. Mercer Financial Group had been acquired. The parent company was Draven Holdings, and the transition would be personally overseen by its CEO, Cale Draven, the Alpha King of the Eastern District, a man whose name appeared in headlines more than his face appeared in public. The office filled with nervous energy. People straightened their desks. Someone bought flowers for the reception area. Elena lowered her head and worked. He arrived on a Thursday. She heard him before she saw him. A shift in the room, the way conversations shortened and postures stiffened. She kept her eyes on her monitor, even when the footsteps stopped near her desk. "You're in accounts receivable?" a voice said. She looked up. He was taller than she expected, with a calm face that gave away very little. He wore no tie, which struck her as deliberate rather than casual. His eyes moved over her workspace with the focused attention of someone who noticed things for a living. "Yes," she said. "Elena Voss. The quarterly reconciliations. These are yours?" "They are." He picked up the printed report from her desk tray and looked at it the way most people looked at something they already understood. Then he set it down, and for just a moment, his attention shifted, not to the report, not to the office around them, but to her. His expression did not change, but something in his posture did, so slightly that she almost missed it. "I'd like to go over these with you tomorrow," he said. 8 o'clock. "Of course," she said, and he moved on. Elena waited until he turned the corner before she let herself breathe. She told herself it meant nothing. She had passed 100 scans, a dozen firm medicals, years of routine proximity. The patch worked. She was careful. She had always been careful. But the next morning, in the glass-walled conference room, he asked her to walk him through the reconciliation process, and then went very quiet for a moment when she leaned across the table to point at a figure. He cleared his throat and asked a follow-up question. Professional, measured. She answered it. The meeting ended on time. What unsettled her was not what he did, it was what he didn't do. He didn't ask about her wrist. He didn't call anyone. He simply watched her, steadily and without aggression, like someone sitting very still in order not to startle a bird that had landed nearby. Over the following weeks, she tried to resign twice. Both times, her resignation was returned through HR, with a note citing a temporary hiring freeze during the transition period. She considered simply not coming in, but she needed the salary, and more than that, she needed the routine. The routine kept her grounded. Mara noticed the tension. "Is it him?" she asked one evening as they walked to the tram stop. "Is it who?" "Draven. He puts people on edge." "He's professional," Elena said. "He's fine." Mara looked at her sideways but said nothing more, which was one of the things Elena valued most about her. The gala was mandatory. The district held one every autumn, a gathering of business leaders, council members, and their staff, hosted in the old civic hall with its vaulted ceilings and cold marble floors. Elena wore a navy dress she had owned for 3 years, and stood near the back of the room with a glass of water, counting the minutes. She had been there for 40 minutes when it happened. The room was warm. The conversations were loud. She had not eaten enough that day, and the combination of heat and noise and hunger pressed against her like something physical. She felt the patch at her ear grow warm, a warning sign she recognized too late. Her vision blurred at the edges. She gripped the edge of a tall table and told herself, firmly, to stay upright. She didn't stay upright. She caught herself before she fell completely. But the stumble drew attention, and when she looked up, 2 alphas from the district council were already moving toward her. Not out of concern, but with the particular alertness of people who had noticed something changing in the air around her. She knew what was happening. The patch was failing. Her mark was surfacing. She had rehearsed this nightmare 100 times. She had never found a version of it that ended well. Then Cale Draven was beside her. He moved through the room without rushing, and without asking anyone's permission. He reached her before the council members did, took her wrist gently, but with total certainty, and turned to face the room. "She is mine," he said. Not loudly. He didn't need to be loud. "The claim is made." The hall went very quiet. Under district law, a public claim by an alpha superseded all competing interest. It was rarely invoked. It required the claiming alpha to register formally, to take legal and financial responsibility, to bind their standing to another person's well-being. It was not done lightly. It was especially not done by someone like Cale Draven, who had never made a public claim in his life, and who, by making one now, was also openly acknowledging that the woman beside him was an unregistered omega, a legal gray area that could cost him his council seat. The 2 council members stopped. One of them opened his mouth. "I believe," Cale said pleasantly, "that this concludes the matter." They stepped back. Elena let him walk her out of the hall, through a side door and into a quiet corridor, before she pulled her wrist free. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was even. "You had no right to do that," she said. "I know. You made a decision for me, in front of everyone." Yes, he did not try to justify it or soften it. He just looked at her with that same still attention. "You were about to be claimed by men who would not have given you a choice at all. I made a bad choice to stop a worse one. That's all it was." She wanted to be angrier than she was. The anger was there, solid and real. But exhaustion lived underneath it, and something else too. The unsettling recognition that he was being honest with her, which was not what she had expected. "What do you want?" she asked. "Nothing," he said. "Not the way you mean." "Then why?" He was quiet for a moment. "I recognized what you were the first day I walked into that office. I knew you were hiding. I knew why." He paused. "I grew up in this system too, Elena. I've seen what it does to people who don't fit neatly into it. I wasn't going to be the one who handed you over to it." She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. Her legs were unsteady, and she was too tired to pretend otherwise. "I need to sit down," she said. "There's a room off the east corridor. Come on." He didn't take her arm. He just walked beside her and let her keep her own pace. The weeks that followed were not simple. The claim was public record, which meant her double life was over. Her neighbors learned her real mark. People at the firm treated her differently, some with discomfort, some with a new, cautious respect. as though they were recalibrating something. Mara, to her enormous credit, showed up at Elena's apartment on a Saturday morning with groceries and said, "I figured it out about 2 years ago, by the way. I was waiting for you to tell me." Elena laughed for the first time in what felt like months. But the hardest moment came 3 weeks after the gala, when a letter arrived from her father. He had seen the news reports. He wrote in the careful language of a man who wanted something, full of soft words, arranged in hard shapes. He spoke of family, of reconciliation, of his desire to meet with Mr. Draven at his earliest convenience to discuss Elena's future. She read it once, then called Kale. "He wants to negotiate," she said, "with you, like I'm a contract." There was a brief pause on the line. "What do you want to do?" She had been waiting for someone to ask her that for a long time. "I want to register my mark myself," she said. "Officially, on my own record, in my own name. Not because of a claim, not because of him, because it's mine, and I'm done hiding it." "All right," Kale said. "I'll have my legal team draw up the paperwork." "I don't need your legal team," she said. "I just need the address of the registration office." Another pause, shorter this time. "District Hall, 3rd floor, East Wing. Opens at 8. She went the next morning. The registrar was a middle-aged woman who processed the paperwork without drama, stamped the form, and handed Elena a copy. That was all. 5 years of hiding, and the ending of it was a stamp and a copy. She met her father in a public cafe, which was her choice. She came alone, which was also her choice. He arrived looking older than she remembered, and he began with the speech she had anticipated. Family, forgiveness, the future. What a connection to the Alpha King could mean for all of them. She let him finish. Then she said, "I didn't come to negotiate. I came to tell you in person that I've registered my mark. I'm not interested in your access to my life or my relationships, and you won't be contacting Mr. Draven. If you'd like to know me as my father, the door is open, but it's a slow door, and I'll decide the pace." She picked up her coffee cup. "That's all I have." He stared at her. She recognized the expression, the particular frustration of someone who had expected compliance and received clarity instead. She drove home with the windows down. Her symptoms improved when she began proper treatment, a supervised program at a clinic in the inner district, a doctor who was matter-of-fact and thorough and treated her like an adult. The fatigue lifted gradually. The fainting stopped. She got her energy back in increments, like a light dimming up slowly rather than all at once. Fig the cat remained unimpressed by all of it. She and Kale did not rush. That was the word she kept returning to. No rushing, no claiming, no assumptions. They had coffee twice a week, and argued about policy and accounting methods, and whether the district's transit system was the fault of bad planning or bad funding. She learned that he was quieter in small spaces than in large ones, that he had a dry sense of humor he deployed carefully, and that he had never, not once, told her what she should do. She told him, one evening in early spring, that she was staying. "Staying where?" he asked. "Here," she said. "This city, this job, this, whatever this is." "That's good," he said, with the understated warmth she had learned to recognize. "I'm glad." She walked home that night with her wrist uncovered and her sleeve rolled to the elbow, the mark visible in the orange light of the street lamps. A few people glanced at it. None of them said anything. She wasn't sure they needed to. She had spent 5 years making herself invisible, and she had done it so well that she had nearly disappeared even from herself. What she hadn't expected was that the end of hiding would feel not like exposure, but like standing up straight after a very long time crouching, a little sore, a little unsteady, and surprisingly, quietly, free. She pressed the elevator button for her floor, stepped inside, and let the doors close behind her. No patch, no performance, just Elena Voss, going home.